The Reformation story of Martin Luther can only be understood fully when one looks into the life and times of Jacob Fugger. Jacob Fugger II, or Fugger the Rich, was schooled and lived in Venice before coming to Augsburg, Germany. At the time of his death in 1525, that's 4 years after Luther stood before Charles V in Worms, he was considered one of the wealthiest men that had ever lived. He died at the same age as Jeffrey Epstein, 66. His inflation-adjusted wealth was near 400 billion. The cash on hand that his brother received at the time of his death was around 120 million in gold coins. That's equivalent to almost 3,000 pounds of today's $100 bills. But despite his wealth, this was actually minor compared to his influence on world politics of the time. He financed Emperor Maximilian's rule and was rewarded with a rank that made it so that no one could mess with him. He received endless lands, mining rights, banks from Lisbon to Budapest, ability to mint coins. He entered the spice trade. He had the ability to corner the copper market. He even funded exploration of Magellan. When Maximilian died in 1519, Fugger financed the selection of the young Charles V to be the next emperor. He was only 19.
40,500,000 all in.
He's all in.
He did this by paying off the electors of the day with 850,000 guilders. This was an unheard of sum, but it ensured that Francis I of France wouldn't get the spot. That was the spot that Leo X wanted him to have. So he was financing all the papal activity through his banking system. This pulled money out of Europe from Sweden southward, and then this money was sent to Rome to build the Vatican, St. Peter's, Sistine Chapel, etc., etc. It was this activity that Luther spoke against. Fugger's bank was receiving up to half of the money collected in the sale of indulgences. A cardinal from Rome came to Augsburg and begged Luther to recant his 95 Theses in 1518. The church and the state did not want to lose their lucrative setup, but Luther didn't recant. So 3 years later, we find Luther in Worms before Charles V and the papal nuncio. While back in Augsburg, the bubonic plague hits. Before the year's out, Leo X dies of pneumonia at age 45. The Augsburg Confession was soon penned in 1530. This, of course, set off many years of strife that culminated in the Peace of Westphalia. So a walk through Augsburg today takes you by the statue of Caesar, who founded the city. Then you come to Fuggerplatz. It has a statue of Fugger the Great, or Fugger the Rich. Just around the corner is Lutherplatz, but there's no statue of Luther. Rather, the statue is honoring goldsmiths. Around the next corner is the church that Fugger is buried in. It's a very elaborate church that somehow survived 5 centuries of strife. Fugger made it into the German Hall of Fame in Valhalla, Regensburg in 1967. He represents the money that powered both the church and the state. Amazingly, he was able to do this, but at the same time increase his own wealth, but obviously screwing over little people. Luther saw the injustice and stood firm. Augsburg suffered greatly during the Reformation and after. The Fugger enterprise was later decimated by the free-spending Philip II that came after Charles. That was Charles' spoiled son. He did not pay his debts, so the Fuggers faded into history. But a socialistic fantasy place remains called the Fuggerei. Perhaps it is the first woke, gaslighting, virtual signaling, philanthropic, charity, smoke and mirrors institution that fool only those who have a hard time using their brains to think. So now we're left at today. The question is the Fugger dark money uniting with church and state? That's the question I leave.
Yeah, I think the bottom line of this place and why people are coming here and they love it is because it gives them hope, you know, that the Catholic Church business is going to take care of them, give them a home, feed them, you know, through thick or thin. That's really what it's about.
Magdeburg, Wittenberg, Jan Hus.